Welcome back to the Humble Rising Podcast. I am your host, Arivi Vargas, and I have for you a special guest. Her name is Yesenia Bello, and I actually met her 2 to 3 years ago at a Latina professionals event here in Boston. You may also know or remember that at that event, I also met Yvonne Castañeda, who was a very good friend of mine who wrote Pork Belly Tacos, one of the best books you will ever read, especially if you are looking for a book that's culturally relevant to you as a Latina, first generation in this country. And Yesenia Bello is no exception. She is an incredible entrepreneur and media and tech executive. She was born in the Dominican Republic, came here when she was 11, raised in New York City, and she helps professionals redefine success. Her 22-year career in media at companies like NBCUniversal, Hulu, Google, and iHeartMedia taught her the corporate world from the inside out. But it was a personal battle with burnout in 2018 that reshaped her definition of success. She now believes that well-being is paramount to a fulfilling career and her mission. Her mission is to empower individuals and teams to reconnect with their purpose and bring love and compassion back to the workplace. This is where the Mujeres Create Podcast comes in. It is her creative playground and a vital part of Yesenia's purpose, where she fosters meaningful conversations that empower women to embrace their creativity, push boundaries, and create a life that reflects their unique dreams. At the heart of everything she does is a fierce commitment to helping people reconnect with themselves, activate their purpose, and thrive in work and in life. And in this episode, Yesenia shares her journey from the Dominican Republic to becoming this 22-year media and tech veteran and professional. We talk about her career and the pressure you often feel when you're the first to have a corporate career in your family, especially as Latinos, especially as first generation corporate professionals, this pressure to push through, to keep going, even if it's not what you want anymore or it's not sustainable anymore. Yesenia walks us through the pivotal decision to leave her corporate job to pursue entrepreneurship and a path in alignment with her well-being and her purpose. She opens up about her experiences with burnout and the health challenges she faced, including developing rheumatoid arthritis and undergoing a partial hysterectomy, and how these experiences led her to really embracing holistic wellness. And those experiences, how they led her to her mission to really support Black and Brown women on their own wellness and career journeys. With that, here is my conversation with Yesenia. Yesenia, it is so good to have you on the podcast finally. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So Yesenia, I would love for people to get to know you better.
Mhm.
So let's start with your story and your journey, more than 2 decades in media and tech. So give us your origin story and then what led you to do the incredible work you do now.
Thank you so much, Arive, for having me on your podcast. I have my own podcast, so I know how much fun it is to do it. I appreciate you inviting me to your show. So I was born and raised in the Dominican Republic, immigrated to New York City when I was 11 years old. Most of my family, I would say my immediate family is all in the US, in the East Coast. Went to school, CUNY school in New York. And then I was very fortunate to land right after college, job in media. I did an internship, then I landed in media. And at the time, my first job was at Telemundo, which around that time, NBC bought out Telemundo. And by way of that acquisition, I ended up working, obviously, for NBC, one of the largest broadcast networks in the US. And that really kickstarted my career in media. And because I was working at Telemundo, my career in multicultural media and marketing and sales. And it's something that I had never been exposed to before. I went to school for communications, but you know how it is when we're in school, we're a little bit lost about, I know that you had a very different career trajectory, but, for me, I never really knew what I wanted to be. And communication seemed like something I understood and like I couldn't figure out. But I really never exposed myself to these careers. So landing at Telemundo and in sales specifically in multicultural media was truly a gift because as a Dominicana, Latina, I'm living that cultural duality every single
Yes.
day. So being part of that network and staying there for 8 years, then I went over to tech and then audio. It's been really a fun career experience for me. But outside of work, and we can talk about me leaving corporate because that's a recent thing. I left corporate and now I'm doing my own ventures. But outside of that, I'm a first gen daughter. I'm actually an immigrant, but I'm a first gen, the first one to go to school in my family, the first one to have these corporate careers, the first one to leave these corporate careers.
Hmm.
And you know how it is, paving the way for my family, for my siblings. I'm the oldest of 7 children. I have 60 first cousins, a large Dominican family.
I hear you. I just went to a wedding and it was the familia picture was like in there, people missing. And Julian, my son Juli, he said to me the other day, he's like, "You have like a gajillion cousins." I'm like, "Yes, I do."
That's me. I just went to my cousin's wedding too, and it was a lot of us. And there's always events every single weekend. There's
Yes, but it's still fun. But it's really fun. Like when you get together and then you start reminiscing about like what abuela did when you were younger and how when we were being raised, like how it was different from now the newer generations being raised.
it's amazing. I love it. I love it.
Wait, tell me just any about, when you mentioned being first generation in a corporate career, it's same for me. Tell me more about what that was like in terms of your family understanding that. Or did you try to help them understand what it was like to be in corporate America? And then also, and we can get to this later more in depth if you want, or we can talk about it now, what it was like when you told them, hey, and by the way, that 20 plus career that I had that I was very successful at, I'm going to peace out and I'm going to go do my own thing because I need to live my purpose. How was that conversation for you? Because I know what it was like for me and I delayed that as long as possible.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love this question. So, first of all, because I started working at Telemundo, my family watched Telemundo and they're like, oh, I know where you were. But everybody thought that I was like a news anchor or like a reporter. They thought I was on television. I'm like, have you seen me on television? They're not like, not on television. I'm on the advertising side, totally behind the scenes. So everyone in my family thought that I was like on TV. And I'm like, have you seen me on TV? No. But because they knew Telemundo, they kind of had an idea of where I worked and what I did. The challenge came after 8 years of working there, deciding to leave to Hulu, which they did not know about Hulu. And Hulu was a startup at the time, Hulu, the subscription video service. And me explaining them, hey, I'm going to leave Telemundo to go work at Hulu. They were like, no, don't do it. It's such a big mistake. You're leaving the company. And I'm like, trust me, this is a good move. And then when I went to Google, they were like, oh my God, Google. They were like, my parents did not go to college. They did not have any corporate experiences or careers. So to them, it was just like discovering new worlds every single time I went to a different company. And then the decision to leave, I delayed it for so long. My dad doesn't really know that I left.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like spreading lightly because you understand what I mean. Like they don't understand why anybody would leave corporate jobs and benefits and perks and the media industry is really fun. I mean, my career has really been a dream. But it was time to leave. So yeah.
Okay, so tell us more about how you knew it was time to leave because yeah, I'm sure Yesenia, it wasn't just your parents, but and I love that you said your father still really doesn't know. I love that because it just highlights it's not just about our success, but it's also it's so intertwined with our family. And we want to make them so proud and want them to believe in us, but we also recognize that they can't even fathom the world that we live in, Yesenia. Like they can't because they didn't experience it.
Right.
And sometimes it's really hard to try to explain. Even what I do now with my parent, what I do with my parents now is I try to explain what I do now, but they are like, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Like, you don't get a paycheck every 2 weeks. I'm like, no. They're like, then you're not working. I'm like, okay, I work my behind off. Defending, you know this as an entrepreneur, but they like don't understand. They can't wrap their head around it because to them it's like, no, I go to work. I go to work 9 to 5 or whatever it is. I get my paycheck. I get my benefits. I have my health insurance. I have financial security. I don't worry about, when the next like predictable revenue is coming in because I have an employer. And so I'm curious for you when you were thinking about leaving and when you finally did it, talk to me about the thought process and what made you finally say, this is the time.
It was a really difficult decision, and you understand why. Our parents come from very little. My family comes from very little resources. My grandmother was the first person in our family to immigrate to the United States in the 80s, and she brought over my father, all of my siblings. So they come from very humble beginnings. We all do. I do too. This is my family. So to them, making a living and me earning money and going to work, it's like you have to do those things. And they did really hard jobs that I thankfully didn't have to do. For me, leaving the comfort of 20 years in media, and again, my career has really been a dream and fun, and media industries are amazing, an amazing place for people. But I started to feel like a little pull, like, resistance going to work every day. I just didn't feel as passionate anymore. I didn't feel as driven. I didn't feel motivated for like maybe 2 years. And I was just like, it was hard for me to get out of bed and like think about doing the things that I needed to do. And the worst part of it is just that I was in a really difficult job situation at Google. I just recorded my last episode on my podcast that talks about that experience because I did a career track on my podcast, just explaining all the different places that I've been to. But at Google specifically, big tech was really challenging for me, extremely challenging. I was not myself. I went through a really bad burnout situation. And as I was navigating all of that, it came to a point where I was like, I was supposed to be in the highest point in my career. I had the company, I had the title, I had the pay, I had the perks, the benefits. Everybody was like glowing every time I told them I worked at Google. But inside, I felt so small and I felt so undervalued. And I felt like I was so misaligned with what I was supposed to be doing that I finally climbed that ladder and I looked down and I'm like, this is not the view I want. Like, this is not what my life is supposed to be. And I truthfully did not enjoy that experience. And that's when I decided, okay, I need to really plan my exit because this is no longer feeling like what I want. I ended up going to a different role after that, and I stayed in that role for 4 more years. So I extended it further through the pandemic years, which with pandemic, like obviously everybody was like nervous about making a move and quitting all those things. So I held on for as long as I could. But then I finally said to myself, okay, you can extend this for as long as you want, but that ache is only going to grow and more and more and more, and you're just going to grow more misaligned and more misaligned. So you have your savings, you have a setup, like just go. And I did. It's been 2 years and it hasn't been easy, but I feel so much peace and I feel so much like I wake up every morning like feeling like, okay, I don't have everything figured out, but at least I'm not doing that. At least I'm not hating where I'm going to work. At least I'm not hating what I'm doing. I'm discovering new things. I launched my podcast. I'm about to launch my website and my coaching services and my wellness offering. And it's different when you get to do things that you actually really enjoy.
Yeah, it sounds like you had this evolution though, Yesenia, because a lot of people have this misconception that if you're not feeling fulfilled at work, like you mentioned, you weren't feeling motivated. It was a little bit of dread, right? Of getting up in the morning and you felt undervalued and it's a rough situation and you're experiencing burnout. A lot of people think that, well, that just means you leave right then and there. And your story is the typical one, which is the typically you don't just get up and go because you've built a career being a very high achiever and working in very fast-paced environments. And what you did was you thought about it. You're like, okay, what are the things I can do? Because I understand the external environment right now with COVID, right? I understand that. So I'm going to stay a little bit longer. I'm going to just figure this out and stay a little bit longer. So I'm wondering for all the people out there who are in roles where they feel like you felt, what are some of the things you did to manage the next 4 years? What were you doing that made it like palatable for you to stay there for a little longer before you made your leap?
That's a great question. And, you know, I have to say, truthfully, I didn't leave right away because I was so fearful about the
Yeah.
pandemic and like, how am I supporting myself? What if this doesn't, what if like I can't come up with anything? Or what if I have to go to another company and like it's worse for me? I was very fearful. So it took time because of that too. But for example, at Google, what I did was I started looking at their perks and I started looking at they had a lot of amazing speakers that they were always bringing into the company and motivating employees. And I started to do all of that. I started to have fun because I was so busy and I was so stressed that I didn't care about any of that. But then after I decided, okay, I'm leaving and I'm going to be intentional about this, I started to enjoy all the perks. I took this amazing volunteer trip to Guatemala. I went to see Perry at one of the chats that they offered. I went to Latinas at Google event in San Francisco. I tried to enjoy the access that I had. And then I left feeling like, okay, I enjoyed it. And then the next company, I tried to get myself to do things that were a little bit more purposeful. I started mentoring people. I started to do like extra stuff that you don't typically, especially during the pandemic and people were going through so much. I think I started to kind of build a community and reaching out. You kind of have to just find the purpose within what you're doing. Even when it doesn't feel purposeful, being present and being able to say, you know what, this is not perfect right now, but I can find ways to feel some fulfillment, maybe enjoy this time that I may not have much longer, and then also enjoy the perks at iHeartMedia, for example. They always have amazing speakers and events and podcasts and all these things. So I was kind of leaning into the fun moment of it and also minding my finances and making sure that I was making a sound decision. So it was kind of a long process, and spiritually, like trying to understand that I wasn't just acting on because I was frustrated or because I was unhappy, but because this is something that had been in me for a long time and I needed to listen. It was time for me to listen.
Oh yeah, the difference between being, you mentioned this earlier, being pulled towards something versus being reactive and running away. You really wanted to make sure, no, this is what I'm called to do versus like, I can't take this anymore and making the decision on a foundation of anger or frustration rather than, hey, there's something pulling me towards this. And I know that this is the path I'm meant to walk. Listen, tell me more about your health journey and how that's impacted your path so far.
Yeah. And health is a huge topic for me. So I was going through this burnout at Google and everything came crashing down at that point. I couldn't function, like my mind wasn't right anymore. I was super stressed. I was depressed, I was sad, I was anxious, all the things. And that's when I started to understand, okay, success, it's not just the title, the pay, the company. Success is how you feel when you go home at night, how you're able to enjoy what you actually work for, the people that are next to you. If you're able to enjoy vacation and actually not have to be on emails or anxious that you're not in the office, I started to value that a lot more. And I left Google right before the pandemic into iHeartMedia. And when I left, I started to feel the effect of that burnout physically. I developed rheumatoid arthritis because of stress and all the other things that were happening. And then I also started I was trying to figure out like having a baby with my husband and like that fertility journey, and it wasn't happening and it wasn't happening. And I went through the health system in the United States, and I had fibroids that were growing and getting out of control. That whole situation was a huge disappointment because I was never able to get help in the United States. I actually had to travel to the Dominican Republic to find help because I was just getting kind of like stuck in the cycle of we don't know what's wrong with you. You just need to have a baby, try in vitro, try this. But they were not getting to the root of my problem, which was growing fibroids that were growing out of control. So I went to the Dominican Republic. I found an amazing doctor, and the doctor told me, you have to have a hysterectomy. Your fibroids are very large, is dangerous now. You have to kind of take care of this. And so after my hysterectomy, and it was a partial hysterectomy, which means I still have my ovaries. And, that's a very delicate conversation for so many women that are navigating that. But I went through the hysterectomy, and that kind of shattered my world because here I was so focused on trying to do this thing, right? Having a baby and all these things that I completely dismissed all the other things that my body was trying to tell me. My inflammation was through the roof. The rheumatoid arthritis didn't come from anywhere. The stress level that I had managed were not okay. And my body was just screaming at me for years. And I didn't listen. I didn't pay attention. I was too busy working and thinking that work was the thing that I had to attend to. But my body was the thing that I needed to attend to. And that just became so clear after the hysterectomy. And after that, I was just, okay, my body and my mind and me are the most important things. And after that experience, it like the whole quitting corporate came full circle. And I said, okay, it's time. There are other things that are calling me now. And I had started to dabble into meditation and sound meditation. I became a sound meditation practitioner, learning about how to just connect with your body and how to understand what your body's trying to tell you, how to relieve your body of stress and the trauma that we go on a daily basis and within our lineage. Like I started to understand more about that, and I said, okay, there's something here. And so it's been like this journey of wellness that no job can ever do that to me ever again. And I'm very proud that I'm here now. And it's been like a painful journey that I know a lot of women are going through. But, now it's better than, continue to ignore things that may potentially be wrong with me or, that I may need to attend to and just like pay attention closer to what my body's trying to tell me.
Justina, thank you so much for sharing that, because I think a lot of people are gonna need to hear what you just said is pay attention, listen, that the more you suppress, it's just the longer your body's under stress, and your body eventually will tell you this has to stop. Like your body will do it, and listening to it is so important, which you so beautifully described, and through like a painful experience and one that seemed to just like kind of break you open in many ways, if that's the right way to phrase it.
For sure.
And that's really powerful, people to understand that, hey, you can have the most high paying job. You can be at a very lucrative, prestigious company. But if you don't have your health and you don't like the way you feel when you go to work, it doesn't feel good to you, your body, your mind, your spirit, it's all connected and it knows it. And if you don't do anything about it now, eventually your body is going to force you to do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when I was at the height of my career, I would think about, okay, I'm at Google now. I have this high job at iHeart. What else is next for me? And I couldn't see that because I'm like, do I want to keep climbing or is that the answer? I just felt so miserable in my body and all the signs were there. I was stressed. I was coasting on this career path and not coasting, that's not the right word, but I was just like riding the wave.
Momentum.
And just like going with it and like everything else, sometimes we think we have time and we can put things to the side. But now, I'm planning to launch a holistic wellness coaching business, coaching Latinas and Black women on wellness and how to, get on that path of success while tending to their wellness and their bodies, and mental health. We sometimes think that this is what we need to do now in our 30s and our 40s because then we're 50 and 60 and we can't do it anymore. But, I don't want anyone to have to go through what I went through, which was like a jolt of like, you're not going nowhere. You're not going nowhere more. Pay attention now. And you don't want to go through that. You kind of want to just be intentional and say, okay, I'm going to take care of my body, and that can wait, and we don't have to rush. And that's the message. Like we sometimes think that we have to rush in our careers, and we're like in this competitive thing, but we don't. It's really, we can make it what we want.
There's so much pressure we put on ourselves to advance quickly and to do it all, even though no one does that all. You may think someone does it all, but they really don't. I'm wondering for those who've been in a similar position to you, I certainly relate to what you're saying. What are some of the thoughts and feelings you battled? Like, what is some of that internal chatter and internal thoughts that you battled where you finally said, no, I'm taking care of myself?
Yeah, it was always like, immigrant, first daughter or oldest daughter. We put a crazy amount of pressure on ourselves that we have to be the ones that are responsible, setting the example. We can't pause. We can't take a break. We just have to keep going because, what are our parents going to say? What are siblings going to say? What's everybody going to say? We put that on ourselves because our parents want the best for us. Our siblings want the best for us, but it's something that comes from within, and you have to identify it. So that's what I was battling. Like, I can't. I've been doing all of this. I have had this amazing career. I can't stop now. What are people going to say? What if I can never bounce back? Who am I to like think that I deserve to take a break? Why am I not strong enough? My grandmother went through so much more, and I'm here complaining at Google when I have like breakfast, lunch, and dinner and perks and massages and all these things. It was just like the worthiness. Like, am I worth to take time off? Can I afford it? What if like my finances collapse? All these things.
All of those things. Yes, they're all. It is what I hear from my clients. Always talk about those things too. They feel very real and visceral. Like these are the things that you say, okay, I'll deal with it later. Okay, I'll deal with it later. Okay, I'll think about that later because I got to stay on this and I got to keep pushing through. And especially your point about, this is why if you're an immigrant or like the child of immigrants, the pressure that you put on yourself to be strong because you saw that role modeled. You saw them push through when they were tired and exhausted, and they didn't complain. They never complained. I can't tell how many times my parents like, so soft, you're so soft. Because to them, they just did it. They just got it done. It was hard, but they just did it. And now they recognize the world is different now, especially with technology, how you are always available and accessible. It's different. But the pressure we put on ourselves based on what we saw, it's not that our parents are telling us, no, push through even though you're tired and you're sick. They're not saying that. It's just that you're right. It's like internally generated from really generations of survival where they have to do them. We think, oh, we got to survive too. But no, they came here and gave us the opportunity so we don't have to go through the same things.
Yeah. It's crazy. And
so,
my grandmother, both of my grandmothers, one of them had 9 children. The other one had 7 children. And my paternal grandmother worked. I mean, you have no idea all the types of jobs that she had to do to feed 7 children. And physical exhaustion, mental, emotional, but she couldn't show any of that. And we can get deep into this, but all of that stuff is carried on past me as the granddaughter. Why did you think I had a hysterectomy? Because it was all of that is in my lineage. And I like to say, my uterus was tired from all of these things that my family had to live through. And now I get to have a different life. And that's how I'm trying to see it. I went through a period of a lot of pain and emotional processing. But now I see it as like, okay, there's a different life for me. It's not, I haven't decided if I will have children in a different way, adoption or surrogacy. But I'm thinking I get to have a different life, a life that doesn't involve, all the stresses that motherhood comes with a lot of the times, and a lot of the sacrifices, and that experience like just made me have so much respect for mothers and for women and for what we go through. And that's why I created Mujeres Create, because of that situation and those experiences that really forced me to get into my feminine and try to understand where these things come from and why I had dismissed my body for so long. And women, women are the creators of the world. Like, the world does not go up without us. So
No. Wait, doesn't it tell us more about Mujeres Create and your vision for Mujeres Create? Let's talk more about that.
yeah, so initially I wanted to do a podcast where I could just share information about women's health. But, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a health expert. I just had this experience that I wanted to share with the world because a lot of women are going through it. When I heard that I had needed a hysterectomy, I was like, wait a minute, does that happen to younger women? I was 42. Not that I'm like that young, but I'm like, I'm 42. I thought that happened to women in like their 50s and 60s. I didn't know that it could happen to someone my age. Is that really happening? And then I found out it happens to so many women, no matter your age. You could be 20, you could be 30, 40, 50. It happened a lot, and there's not a lot of information about it. There's not a lot of conversation, especially in Black and brown communities. So I wanted to create a podcast about that, but then I'm like, I'm not a health expert. Like, I just don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about other things. And then the whole aspect of creation and your uterus is your portal of creation, not just birthing life, but this is your center of creativity, your center of like feminine energy where you harness everything that you are. And so I'm like, okay, I want to honor my uterus. How could I do that? Creation, Mujeres Create. Mujeres Create, that's it. And I'm showcasing women who are just creating a different life for themselves. It could be you found a new way to, you created a podcast, you created a new company, an organization, a better way to help your family that you want to share with the world. I'm interviewing women in our community, Black and brown, and all communities that have an interesting story to tell. I just interviewed someone who went through a very painful divorce, and she created a platform to prepare women that are going through divorce with resources and information and like ways to navigate these difficulties in your life. So that's what Mujeres Create is celebrating the innate power that we have to create and to, harness our creativity for good, because that's another thing. When we create for the world. We don't just create for ourselves. We create for everybody, for our community, for our family, for the world to be better. And that's the beauty of being a woman. And I love celebrating it.
So I'm going to challenge you, Yesenia. There's Mujeres Create the podcast.
Yes.
You have the holistic wellness program that you want to provide for Black and brown women.
Mm-hmm.
What's the big vision for Yesenia the entrepreneur? What's the bigger, those to me sound like pillars or components? What's the big Yesenia is like Mel Robbins? Like, this is we're in it now. Like, this is my vision for what I want to contribute, my legacy in life. What's that look like?
Ooh, okay. So I don't know if you're into manifesting and like.
Yes, Yesenia, of course I am.
Vision boarding and all of that.
Yeah.
But throughout my whole life, I've always been like, very a proponent of like visioning exercises, writing down your ideas and like what you want out of life. In this season of my life where I'm outside of corporate and I have so much free time because I did take time off. Since March, I've been taking time off to build my website, my services, my podcast. And so I've been just like dedicating time for me and for the things that I want. Oh my God, I'm writing a series, the podcast.
Awesome, I love it.
I am obviously the coaching business. I call myself the Latina Oprah.
I love it. Wait, who are you? Who is your ideal audience for coaching or ideal client for coaching?
It's because Black and brown women are not necessarily seeking out a lot of these services for various reasons. It could be because we're not taught that these things are helpful, that these are tools that we can access, that we sometimes just need a sounding board. Sometimes the financial aspect is a challenge. Sometimes it's just like we don't hear about these things, right? So Black and brown women first and foremost, especially because I come from a Dominican immigrant background and I know the mindset that sometimes holds us back. I know the mindset around wellness and around like, no, I need to get to that meeting now, no matter what's happening. No, you don't. And like understanding how you can plan your day differently, how mindfulness can really help you in your every day, no matter what you're dealing with, if it's a busy mom or you're just like trying to get to the next level in your career, you just don't know what you're doing. And the barriers that we face in corporate, I don't have to spell it out. Disparity, inequality, inequity, there's so much happening. And because I come from that background, that's my passion point, but it's truly any woman and men who is seeking just a different perspective, and also young people trying to build their career. And I'm really big on, young people sometimes we pay attention to what other people are doing and we think, "Oh my God, that person got the promotion, got the job, got the title. I need to do that." And we derail ourselves so easily,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't want anyone to derail their careers just because somebody else is doing that. Do you want to do that? Or is that there's something else that you want to do? Like I want people to be very aligned with what they want. And it could be a career in corporate, it could be entrepreneurship, it could be so many things. And that's the beauty of like getting grounded in who you are and what you want and not letting any limiting beliefs get in the way of accomplishing big things, wherever that is, in corporate or out of corporate. There's space to grow everywhere.
And what you're also saying is that what you want today may not be what you want in 5 years, and that's okay. But it's an evolution and paying attention, not just to your body, but pay attention, be mindful, be aware. And a lot of times with awareness comes, okay, so how am I going to navigate this? Like I'm going to apply my knowledge. How am I going to actually apply what I'm aware of? And what does that mean for me? And it sounds like you want to help people where they are at kind of navigate that uncertainty and figure out, wait, what does it mean for me? What does alignment look like for me? What does success mean to me versus another person, which is typically just an image of that person's life. You don't know really what they're thinking and what they're going through. And I think we get in trouble, like you said, playing the comparison game because we'll never be good enough. It will
No.
if we're not basing our definitions of success and alignment and fulfillment on something that is anchoring us versus what other people are doing. And we can't be so externally based.
Yeah, and in corporate, it's very easy to think, oh my God, that looks so cool. That job, that pay, that title, that office. Oh my God, I want that. But do you really want that? Think about it. And I had that view when I worked at Google, and I was like, oh my God, I'm here now. And I've never been like super competitive, like in that way. I was just kind of like succeeding, but kind of like letting the universe take me wherever, right? I wasn't like pushing too hard. But when I worked at Google, I saw so many people, especially women, oh my God, like working so hard to attain things that sometimes they didn't even want. They just thought they needed to show interest in like that promotion or the job because my manager expects me to show interest and my manager expects me to be motivated. So I need to chase that. I saw some people falling into that trap. And thank you, God, that I paid attention and I was like, I don't want that. I don't want to be here until 10 o'clock in the night every single day. I have a life that I want to get to as well. I want to work hard, but not this hard where I'm just missing my life. I'm sorry, I don't want it. And thank God I caught it because I could have easily gotten the next job, the next title, the next company. But you just have to kind of sometimes pull yourself back and say, is this really what you want? And have that conversation. And there's going to be sacrifices along the way, but trust me, life will take care of you at all times.
Yes, take care of you, just in here for your story. Also, take care of you when you're honest with yourself about about your life and what you want and what makes you come alive. It seems like you really went through that evolution, but you were always open and willing to look at yourself and look at your life, right? Because you said you believe in manifestation, vision boarding, and taking a look at things and taking stock of things, that unless we do that, we can't get to the next step, because how you won't know what the next right step is for you if you haven't defined what the terms are for yourself first.
Exactly. I love that. Exactly. Exactly.
So Yesenia, we're going to talk about the rest of 2025 in a second, but I would love to just ask this question of, if you were to look back, let's say Yesenia 10 years ago, if you could talk to her, let's do 10 years. I know we talk about doing 5 years, but let's say 10 years ago. If you were able to talk to her, what advice would you give her?
So 10 years ago, I was actually working in the funnest job I've ever had at Hulu. I was having a lot of fun. I was like thriving in my career. And even then, I was kind of like, okay, how many more years are you going to do? Even when I was happy, I was kind of, it's always been like in my heart, in my mind. But I would say to her, be present. Because sometimes, especially when we're in our 30s, we think that there's a clock. There's a biological clock, of course, unfortunately. But we also think there's a career clock, and you're just like, next thing, next thing, next thing. And where else would I work? But I would just say be present and enjoy the people that you're working with is really the most important thing. Like nurturing those relationships and and caring for each other, because in the corporate space, there's a desperate need of love and compassion and rest and wellness. So I would just say, just take care of your body, take care of yourself, because at that point at 34, I probably could have prevented so many health things that happened to me if I had just taken care of myself. So I would just say, take care of yourself and be present. So that would be the message.
And what about if you could speak to little Yesenia, who's maybe 10 years old? What would you tell her? Oh my gosh, so many dreams.
I love that question, because at 10 years old, I was in the Dominican Republic. Probably my dad was working on like getting us to the US, and like the whole, the immigration thing and the consulado and all of that. And I was just like so curious about what was going to happen. Am I ever going to learn English? What is school going to be like? What does New York look like? I was just so afraid. But I would tell her, your life is just loading. You're so small, you're learning, you're growing. Your life is loading, just like you're going to be okay. You're going to figure things out in the right time. Just have fun. I feel like, we lose a lot of the child curiosity and excitement when we get to like the heaviness of life, the heavy parts of life. But I would just say, continue to have fun, and you're going to be okay. And you're strong, and you're going to figure it out.
I'm going to figure it out. I love that. The resourcefulness. I love that. So looking forward to the rest of the year, Yesenia, what are you most excited about?
I'm excited to launch my website. I'm excited to continue to grow my podcast, Mujeres Create Podcast. I'm excited to get clients and start working with women and people that just need this type of work. I'm excited to think about 2026. I want to do wellness events and retreats, and there's a lot that I'm planning, but I'm just taking it one day at a time and taking this time as like, I have this like crazy way of like manifesting and thinking. I'm just like, this is my quiet time before it gets real crazy and busy. So I'm just trying to enjoy my mornings, all the little things that we don't really get to do when we're super busy. I'm like in that moment right now and like planning big things. So yeah, hopefully it all comes true.
I love that, because you're planning these big things, but you're taking the time to just get even more grounded. And then you get to decide what all that looks like and when you do it and how you do it. Right. So I think I love that about entrepreneurship, is that you really can really design your work and the way that you operate each week. Like you really get to have the say in a way that It's harder to do it when you are an employee. It's possible, but it's harder because you don't have the full autonomy, right? Just Yesenia, tell everyone where they can find you so that they can stay updated on your wellness programs, your events, your retreat, all the good stuff.
So my podcast, the Mujeres Create Podcast, is available on all podcast platforms, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Pandora, all of them. And also on YouTube. I'm building my website, yesibello.com, yesibello.com. And that should be available within the next 2 weeks or so. And yeah, those two things. And LinkedIn, you can connect with me on LinkedIn if you're interested in learning more about how I'm bringing holistic wellness to leadership coaching. You can reach out to me. And I'm also doing a few free workshops this quarter particularly for young career, young people in starting their careers, mid-level, senior level. So look out for that. Connect on LinkedIn, and my email is yesenia@themujerescreatepodcast.com.
I love it. And I will throw all that in the show notes so everyone will have that at the ready. So don't have to write it down. If you're driving, don't write it down. I will provide it in the episode show notes, and so you can grab it when you are parked and you're not doing anything. Yesenia, thank you so much for joining me. I've loved this conversation. I think your journey is so inspiring. So thank you for sharing it.
Thank you so much. It was so great connecting with you at that Boston event 2 or 3 years ago.
It was 2 or 3 years ago. Yes, it was.
3 years ago. And I think you were starting to write your book. Or
yes, I was.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
I remember you were like trying to be accountable to like writing every day. And I'm just like, amazing. So I'm really happy to see you launching your book, and congratulations. And thank you so much for giving me the space in this podcast.
Thank you.